Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Alien strategist mocked human tactics, then watched their fleet collapse. Admiral Tayo of the Galactic Hegemony studied the human battle formations with disdain. After centuries of conquest across 12 star systems, the humans' primitive approach to warfare seemed almost laughable. Their fleet was smaller, their technology less advanced, and their formations appeared chaotic compared to the elegant precision of hegemony battle doctrine. They scatter their ships like particles in a nebula, Tayo observed to his war council. No cohesion, no proper battle lines. Their flagship doesn't even maintain central position. His strategists nodded in agreement. The scans showed human vessels taking seemingly random positions, some clustering at odd intervals, others maintaining unusual distances. These humans survived this long through sheer luck, Tayo declared. Their civilization is young, barely 2 millennia in space. We have refined our tactics across 50,000 cycles. The war room fell silent as the admiral's words hung in the air. The curved walls displayed three-dimensional projections of the approaching human fleet. Tayo's six-fingered hand moved through the hologram, breaking the light into scattered patterns as he pointed at specific human vessels. "Look here and here," he said. "No logical spacing, no defensive perimeter. They move like a group of untrained children." Commander Suunwoo, Tayo's most trusted advisor, stepped forward. His silver uniform gleamed under the room's soft lighting. "Perhaps there is some strategy we do not yet understand." Tayo laughed, a harsh sound that made junior officers flinch. "What strategy? I have fought 117 battles. I have conquered species with far more advanced technology than these humans. Their approach lacks even basic tactical understanding." Outside the war room windows, the massive hegemony fleet hung in space like a perfect geometric sculpture. 500 warships arranged in precise formations that mathematicians had spent centuries perfecting. The dark metal hulls absorbed nearby starlight, making them appear as voids against the cosmos. Only the pulsing blue engine lights revealed their presence. "The humans call their lead vessel Resilient," intelligence officer Jan reported, reading from her data tablet. "A presumptuous name for a ship that will not survive first contact," Tayo nodded and walked to the central display table. The three-dimensional map showed both fleets' positions near the contested planet of Nexus 7, rich in rare minerals. The planet had been claimed by both species, leading to this inevitable confrontation. "Their ships lack our unified shield systems," weapons specialist Key added. "Each vessel protects only itself rather than contributing to a collective defense." "Primitive," Tayo agreed. "They still think as individuals rather than as parts of a greater whole." The Admiral's long career had taught him that victory in space combat was mathematical certainty. The hegemony's synchronized weapons systems could concentrate fire on specific targets while distributing incoming damage across multiple vessels. Their formations maximized firepower while minimizing vulnerability. Every aspect had been refined over thousands of years. "Have they responded to our final warning?" Tayo asked. Communications officer Mina looked up from her station. "They have, Admiral. Their message was unusual." "Unusual how?" "They said, 'We acknowledge your technical superiority and experience. We look forward to the education this battle will provide.'" Laughter rippled through the war room. Even Tayo allowed himself a small smile. The human response showed either remarkable arrogance or foolish bravery. "They seek education. Then let us teach them the price of challenging the hegemony," Tayo said. He pulled up the battle plans on the main display. The hegemony fleet would advance in the stellar spear formation, a perfect cone of destroyers protecting the heavier battleships. Their synchronized shields would make them virtually impenetrable while their forward-facing weapons created a concentrated point of destruction. The humans appear to be using what they call scatter protocol, tactical analyst June reported with obvious confusion. Their ships maintain varying distances from each other. Some appear to be moving independently of their command structure. A sign of poor discipline, Taiyo dismissed, or perhaps internal disagreement about their approach. As the final preparations for battle began, Taiyo felt only confidence. His career had been built on victories against species that thought they could challenge hegemony dominance. The humans would be another footnote in his impressive military record. The admiral walked to the viewport and looked out at his magnificent fleet. The ships hovered in perfect formation, a testament to unity in discipline. Their hulls gleamed with powerful weapons and advanced shield emitters. Against this technological marvel, what chance did the humans have? Time to engagement, he asked. 4 hours, Admiral, Navigator Dongan replied. Begin the approach sequence, Taiyo ordered. Standard Conquest Protocol 7. The massive engines of the hegemony fleet glowed brighter as they began their advance toward the human positions. The smaller ships moved first, taking their predetermined places in the formation. Each captain knew exactly where to position their vessel down to the meter. Initiate tactical simulations based on human fleet movements, Taiyo instructed his team. I want projected victory scenarios on my display within the hour. As his officers rushed to comply, Taiyo allowed himself a moment of reflection. These humans were newcomers to the galactic stage. Their civilization had achieved faster-than-light travel barely 2,000 years ago, while the hegemony had been perfecting space combat since before humans wielded stone tools. Admiral, Sunwoo said quietly, joining Taiyo at the viewport, is there no possibility of a peaceful resolution? The mining rights to Nexus 7 could be shared. Taiyo looked at his second-in-command with surprise. The hegemony does not share, Commander. We conquer. We rule. That is our way. Of course, Admiral. I merely thought. Do not think, Commander. Execute. That is how we have survived for 50 millennia. Sunwoo bowed slightly and returned to his station. Taiyo watched his fleet begin its perfect advance, the ships moving in unison like dancers performing a deadly ballet. Against such power and precision, the scattered human fleet looked like children's toys. Yet as he studied their seemingly random positions once more, a tiny doubt crept into his mind. Why would they choose such an obviously inferior approach? Were they truly ignorant of basic battle tactics, or was there something he was missing? Taiyo pushed the thought away. The humans would learn soon enough. They would learn, they would lose, and they would join the long list of species who had underestimated the galactic hegemony. The battle began predictably. The hegemony's primary battle group advanced in perfect formation, a three-dimensional lattice of destroyers protecting the central command vessels. Their synchronized shields created overlapping fields that had broken the militaries of dozens of species. The humans initially appeared to be following standard engagement protocols until their fleet suddenly split into what looked like disorganized groups. They're fracturing their formation, Sub-Commander Jin Woo noted with amusement. Exactly as expected. Taiyo watched with satisfaction as his first attack wave launched. The precision of his fleet was magnificent, each ship firing in sequence, creating a perfect cascade of energy weapons. Yet somehow, the human vessels seemed to slip through gaps in the barrage. Admiral Taiyo narrowed his eyes as he watched the battle unfold on the main display. The first wave of hegemony weapons fire should have disabled at least 30% of the human fleet. Instead, their vessels moved in unexpected ways, sliding between the carefully calculated firing patterns. Impossible, muttered Tactical Officer Hyung. Our targeting solutions were perfect. Taiyo kept his voice level despite his growing concern. Adjust firing solutions. Full spread pattern Delta 9. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. No one questioned the order or showed any sign of worry. They had absolute faith in their admiral and in hegemony battle doctrine. The massive warships shifted slightly, their weapons charging for another synchronized barrage. The humans are continuing to break into smaller groups, reported sensor officer mention. Their communications show increased chatter between vessels. Panic, Tayo said with a dismissive wave. They realize their mistake and now scramble to correct it. The second hegemony attack launched. This time, the energy weapons spread in a wider pattern designed to catch targets regardless of evasive maneuvers. The space between the fleets lit up with blue-white pulses as hundreds of weapons discharged simultaneously. On the display, Tayo could see several human ships taking direct hits. Their shields flared bright orange before failing completely. Yet the number of confirmed hits was still far below expectations. 7% hit rate, Jinnu reported, his voice betraying a hint of confusion. Admiral, that's well below our standard 90% efficiency. Tayo stepped closer to the holographic battle map. The human vessels weren't moving randomly as he had first thought. There was a pattern to their movements, but it was unlike anything in the hegemony tactical database. Some ships moved in tight clusters, others maintained precise distances from their neighbors, and a few darted ahead in what seemed like suicidal charges. They're changing position based on our firing patterns, Tayo realized. But how are they calculating our trajectories so quickly? Before anyone could answer, the human fleet launched its first counterattack. Instead of a synchronized barrage like the hegemonies, their weapons fired in a scattered, seemingly chaotic sequence. Some shots came from their largest vessels, others from their smallest scouts. Brace for minimal impact, Tayo ordered calmly. The hegemony's overlapping shield system was designed to distribute and absorb enemy fire across multiple vessels. No species had managed to penetrate it in over 3 centuries. The human weapons struck the hegemony shields, but not in the expected pattern. Instead of concentrating fire on the front of the formation where shields were strongest, their shots targeted specific junction points where the energy fields overlapped. Shield synchronization faltering in sectors 7, 13, and 22, reported Defense Officer Jian, his voice rising in pitch. 3 destroyers reporting shield failures. Tayo's mandibles clicked in surprise. Impossible. Target those human vessels that are disrupting our shield network. Priority fire. The hegemony gunners adjusted aim, focusing on the human ships that had caused the shield disruptions. But as soon as they did, those vessels fell back while others surged forward to take their place. They're rotating their attack positions, Jin Wu observed. Each vessel only fires a few shots before changing location. On the main display, Tayo could see his perfect formation beginning to buckle as ships moved to protect their suddenly vulnerable neighbors. The elegant geometric pattern that had been the pride of the hegemony was starting to distort. Maintain formation, Tayo ordered sharply. Our strength comes from unity. Do not break ranks. But the human attacks continued, each volley seemingly designed to force the hegemony ships to choose between maintaining formation and protecting themselves. It was a tactical approach Tayo had never encountered, not an attempt to break through the hegemony's superior defenses, but to make those defenses work against themselves. Admiral, communications officer So said urgently, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Put it through, Tayo ordered, curious despite the battle's unexpected turn. The holographic display showed a human commander. Unlike the hegemony officers with their rigid posture and formal dress, this human wore a simple uniform and had a relaxed stance. Admiral Tayo, the human said with a slight nod. I am Captain Juno of the Earth Defense Force. I wanted to compliment your fleet's precision. It's truly impressive. Tayo felt his neck scales flatten in irritation at the human's casual tone during battle. State your purpose, human. Just a friendly suggestion to reassess your tactical approach, Juno replied. Your formation is beautiful but predictable. In chess terms, you've memorized the opening moves but haven't adapted to the game being played. The transmission cut before Tayo could respond. He turned to see his officers staring at him, awaiting direction. They seek to distract us with mind games, Tayo declared. Prepare third attack wave. Full power to forward batteries. As the hegemony fleet repositioned for another synchronized attack, Tayo noticed something alarming. The human vessels weren't just evading, they were guiding his fleet's formation. Each time his ships adjusted to target the humans, they found themselves being drawn into less optimal positions. They're baiting us, Tayo realized suddenly. Each evasion is designed to pull our formation apart. Across the battlefield, small groups of human ships darted between the larger hegemony vessels. Their movements appeared random until Tayo saw the pattern. They were mapping the blind spots in the hegemony's defensive grid. All vessels break current targeting and shift to emergency protocol, Tayo ordered, but it was too late. The human fleet suddenly converged from multiple directions, their seemingly disorganized groups revealing a coordinated strategy. They struck precisely at the weakest connection points in the hegemony formation. As explosions bloomed across his fleet, Tayo gripped the command rail tightly. What had begun as a simple lesson in hegemony superiority was quickly becoming something unexpected, a genuine battle. By the third hour of engagement, Tayo's perfect formation showed signs of strain. The humans weren't fighting according to any documented battle doctrine. Their ships moved independently, yet somehow cohesively, like a flock of birds or school of fish rather than military units. Their approach defies tactical logic, Tayo growled as another coordinated attack failed to eliminate the human squadrons. As if they've evolved rather than designed their strategy, Sunwoo replied slowly. These movements aren't from any tactical manual. Intelligence reports began flooding in. Human communications were decentralized. Their command structure appeared fluid, with authority shifting between vessels based on positioning rather than rank. The war room had changed dramatically since the battle began. Gone was the calm confidence of the hegemony officers. Now they moved quickly between stations, their voices tense as they tried to counter the increasingly effective human attacks. Holographic displays showed damage reports across Tayo's once perfect fleet. "Admiral, we've lost 23 ships," reported Damage Control Officer Mino. Another 41 report critical systems failures. Tayo paced before the main tactical display. The elegant formation he had deployed was now broken in multiple sectors. Ships that should have maintained precise positions had been forced to move defensively, creating gaps in their coverage. "Where is their command center?" Tayo demanded. "Find me their control node." Intelligence Officer Jan looked up from her console, frustration evident in her eyes. "That's what's confusing us, Admiral. There doesn't seem to be one. Each human captain appears to be making independent decisions, yet somehow they're coordinating perfectly." On the display, a group of human ships executed a complex maneuver. They split apart then rejoined at a different angle, slipping through a gap in the hegemony's defenses to strike at a vulnerable destroyer before scattering again. "It's like watching a school of fish evade a predator," observed Science Officer Yunji. She had been unusually quiet during the battle but now stepped forward. "The movements follow biological patterns, not military ones." Tayo turned to her, his scales darkening with stress. "Explain." "Look here," Yunji said, highlighting a section of the battle. "When our weapons target this group, they don't all flee in the same direction. They spread out but maintain awareness of each other's positions. When one section is threatened, others respond without apparent communication." Tactical Officer Wind nodded slowly. "She's right. Their movements resemble natural systems more than military formations. There's no central command giving orders." Tayo struggled to understand. All his military training, all 50,000 cycles of hegemony battle doctrine was based on hierarchy and control. A fleet without a clear command structure should fall into chaos, not function more effectively. "Show me their communication patterns," he ordered. The display shifted to show signal traffic between human vessels. Instead of the expected centralized command network, they saw countless small data packets bouncing between ships in a mesh pattern. "It's a distributed network," communication specialist Doan said with reluctant admiration. No single point of failure. Each ship shares local information with its neighbors, which pass it along. They're creating a real-time tactical awareness without needing central coordination. As Tayo watched, a new human attack pattern formed. Their vessels converged from different directions, focusing fire on a hegemony cruiser that had drifted slightly out of position. The cruiser's shields buckled under the concentrated attack, and it exploded in a brief, brilliant flash. 3 more cruisers lost in Sector 9, reported Sensor Officer G. Human vessels are already redistributing to new attack vectors. Tayo slammed his fist on the command console. This cannot be. Their technology is inferior. Their species is young. How are they defeating our perfect system? Admiral, Yunji said carefully, I believe they're using what we would call emergent behavior. Their individual ships follow simple rules, but the interaction of these rules creates complex adaptive behavior at the fleet level. Like insects in a colony, Wynne added. No single ant knows the colony's strategy, but together they solve complex problems. Tayo's mind raced. In all his years of combat, he had never encountered a species that approached warfare this way. The hegemony's strength came from unity and precision, each ship following exact orders from the command hierarchy. The humans had found a way to turn this precision against them by being unpredictable yet coordinated. If there's no central command, Tayo said slowly, then targeting their flagship won't disrupt their operations. Exactly, Jan confirmed. We've disabled 3 vessels we identified as potential command ships. Their fleet's effectiveness didn't decrease at all. Outside the viewports, Tayo could see his once magnificent fleet in disarray. Ships that had trained together for decades were now struggling to maintain defensive positions against the fluid human attacks. When the hegemony vessels tried to regroup into standard formations, the human ships would immediately probe for weaknesses created during the transition. They're adapting faster than we can, Sub-Commander Jean Wu said quietly. Each time we change tactics, they respond more quickly. A junior officer approached with a data tablet. Admiral, we've intercepted some human communications. They're not what we expected. Tayo took the tablet and read the translated messages. Instead of detailed orders or battle plans, the communications contained simple updates about local conditions, position data, and brief tactical suggestions. There were no ranks mentioned, no officers demanding compliance. Some messages even contained questions rather than commands. They're discussing the battle, Tayo said incredulously, as if they're colleagues rather than a military hierarchy. That's consistent with their decentralized approach, Yunji explained. Each captain contributes information to the collective, and the best ideas are adopted quickly without needing official approval. Another explosion rocked the command ship. The lights flickered momentarily as backup systems engaged. Forward shield grid failing, reported Defense Officer Anu. Rerouting power from secondary systems. Tayo looked at the tactical display again. The battle had shifted from a straightforward conquest to something he had never experienced, a genuine challenge. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Tayo felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest, doubt. We need to adapt, he said finally. The standard doctrine isn't working against this enemy. His officers looked at him in shock. Never in recorded history had a hegemony admiral suggested deviating from established battle protocol. Sir. Jean Wu asked uncertainly. Break formation, Tayo ordered, his voice firm despite the radical nature of his command. All ships, individual defensive protocols. Abandon synchronized firing patterns. As his orders spread throughout the fleet, Tayo watched the human vessels closely. Would they adapt to this new approach as quickly as they had to the others? The answer came swiftly as the human fleet shifted once again, their seemingly chaotic movements revealing the deeper pattern, one that Tayo was only beginning to understand. Admiral, we've completed the analysis of human fleet movements, Tactical Officer Me reported. It's not what we expected. The display showed the complex mathematics behind the human fleet's behavior. They weren't using fixed formations but adaptive algorithms. Their positions constantly shifting based on real-time battle conditions, each ship functioned both independently and as part of a greater whole. They're using emergent behavior systems, Tayo realized with growing alarm, derived from their planet's natural swarms and flocks. The humans had encoded the collective intelligence of Earth's biological systems into their military doctrine. There was no central point of failure, no command node to target. The command center fell silent as officers stared at the display. 6 hours into the battle, the hegemony fleet had suffered unprecedented losses. Nearly a third of their ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest struggled to maintain any semblance of coordination. Mi enlarged the tactical display, showing a three-dimensional model of the human fleet movements over time. Complex mathematical formulas scrolled alongside the model. We've identified 3 primary algorithms they're using, she explained, her voice steady despite the shock evident on her face. This one mimics the movement patterns of Earth birds called starlings. They form massive flocks that can change direction instantly without collisions. The display showed human ships moving in flowing patterns, spreading apart and coming together with fluid grace. This second pattern, Mi continued, resembles how their ocean fish respond to predators. When attacked, they scatter in precise ways that confuse targeting systems while maintaining group cohesion. Tayo watched the simulation with growing understanding. The humans weren't being random at all. Their chaotic-seeming movements followed deep natural patterns that had evolved over millions of years on their home planet. And the third, he asked quietly. The third algorithm appears to be based on their social insects, ants and bees, Mi said. It governs how they share information through the fleet. When one ship discovers a weakness, that information spreads to nearby vessels, which then exploit it without needing orders. Science Officer Yunji stepped forward. Admiral, we've been fighting them completely wrong. Our approach assumes centralized control and perfect information. Theirs assumes limited local information but perfect adaptation. Across the room, Intelligence Officer Jan was reviewing intercepted human communications. Sir, I found something important in their transmissions. They're not using a standard command structure at all. Their captains rotate leadership roles based on tactical position. Explain, Tayo demanded. They call it situational command, Jan said. The ship with the best tactical view of a particular engagement automatically assumes local command for that action only. Once completed, command shifts to whoever has the next best position. Tayo's scales darkened as the realization hit him. So there is no permanent leader to target. Exactly, confirmed January, leadership is a function, not a person or ship. The main view screen showed the ongoing battle. The once proud hegemony formation was now scattered across space, individual ships fighting for survival against the continuously adapting human fleet. Explosions bloomed silently in the vacuum as more hegemony vessels succumbed to the coordinated attacks. Tayo turned to the research console where Yunji was examining data on human evolution. Tell me about Earth, he said. Tell me what produced this thinking. Yunji pulled up images of the human home world. A highly dynamic environment, Admiral. Frequent natural disasters, rapidly changing climates, thousands of competing species. Their evolution required constant adaptation rather than perfection of a single approach. Unlike our home world, Tayo noted. The hegemony had evolved on a stable planet with predictable seasons.